Many fail to truly understand the importance of communication and its relevance throughout history. Furthermore, the attention that this subcategory of communication, cryptography, or hidden communication receives is almost completely barren and is usually referred to with little historical significance. However, what happens when the primary source we rely on to receive information is withheld from us? When new forms of intelligence force state entities to step out of their comfort zones? When something us, as humans, depend upon to perform basic tasks and functions is depleted? When people's lives hang in the very balance? There's possibly no more of a prominent outlier to make cryptography and communication significance known than dissecting its abuse and its use during the most violent time in human history. It all started with a German electrical engineer named Arthur Scherbius. The introduction of rotor-dictated machines had given birth to a small cipher-based industry. In an effort to surpass his competitors, Arthur Scherbius continued to improve his flagship product, the Enigma, which means riddle in Greek. As newer models continued to be pushed, the attention of the German military was peaked towards Scherbius' invention, as they were currently seeking a cryptographic device of their own. Arthur would later be killed in a carriage crash, and he would never live to see the Frankenstein's monster that he made. In the years following 1926, a portable version featuring a lampboard to depict the ciphertext would be utilized by German forces. The methods that the Enigma used to cipher data can still be found somewhat among modern computers, albeit in a digital format and used for encoding rather than encryption. This right here shows the impact that the Enigma had on communication and on cryptographic history. If the adversary were to pick up on German military's communications, they would only be presented with a mess of scrambled letters, the first prominent example of cryptography's use in warfare. Now you may be thinking, why cryptography? Why is it important? As you may know, communication has a major amplification in times of conflict. Communication is the main way information is relayed, and if communication were to fail or to be misunderstood, it would most definitely result in a loss of life. Cryptography introduced a new type of reliable information that could not be gathered or intercepted through traditional means. Furthermore, it allows for the development of a reliable trust pertaining to the party that is making use of said encryption. This makes it extraordinarily dangerous for said party if the hidden communication scheme were to be cracked. Cryptography is not just hidden communication, it is the birth of a new battlefield, and this battlefield forces the hand of every nation involved in the conflict. Cryptography can be either your greatest weapon or your most destructive weakness, and as the Germans would soon learn, the Enigma machine would live to be the latter. The Polish, French, and the British all shared similar interests regarding the destruction of the Enigma machine. As such, cooperative cracking was being attempted by each nation. The Poles were the furthest ahead, as they understood the importance of cryptography earlier on, when they utilized it to gain a foothold over the Russians. Sometime between 1932 and 1938, the Polish would produce their own copy of the Enigma machine, thanks to the reversing work of Marian Rejewski, who was a mathematician. The Polish would eventually partner with Bletchley Park, a British code-breaking center of operations. In doing this, the Polish would share all of their intelligence regarding the Enigma with the Allies. This all occurred briefly before World War II had bloomed. This information which the Poles decided to communicate with Bletchley Park was crucial to the war and gave birth to a secret operation whose goal was to crack the encrypted messages that the Germans relied on. In of itself, the Germans' trust with the Enigma machine was a vulnerability in the communication, as they believed it to be uncrackable. Thus, they would be heavily reluctant to even entertain the idea of the Enigma ever being unsafe to use. Bletchley Park consisted of many codebreakers. However, one of the most notable members would be Alan Turing, a mathematician, computer scientist, cryptanalyst, and philosopher. A new weapon targeting the Enigma had to be produced, as the Germans were now rotating the Enigma system settings daily as a caution of the war. Thus, a new key was being used every single day. Bletchley Park did not tire, and eventually Alan Turing invented the bomb. The bomb was a large mechanical machine, capable of obtaining the daily key used based on a number of factors that dictated the ciphertext, such as patterns. Another codebreaker at Bletchley, such as patterns. Another codebreaker at Bletchley, Gordon Welchman, would introduce the addition of the diagonal board, which significantly increased the speed and the accuracy of the bomb. Thus it became known as the Turing-Welchman bomb. This machine remained top secret and aided monumentally in the war effort, decrypting thousands of classified German communications every single day. The importance of communication in war makes itself known here, not as a simple conversing between parties, but as sensitive intelligence that truly offers a benefit and an advantage to the listener. The armor that German communications had relied so heavily on had finally been stripped bare, and the Axis would never learn this until the late 1970s, so many years after World War II had ended. Winston Churchill was known as a relatively level-headed and calm man. So when he responded to the German campaign that would later be known as the Battle of the Atlantic in 1939, with the dreaded words, "Without victory, there is no survival," it had many people concerned. However, his statements regarding the Battle of the Atlantic were with great reason, as the threat of full German control was making itself ever clearer. The battle can be explained quite briefly, although its importance cannot be downplayed. The Atlantic Ocean served as passage for the Allies, an essential route to transport men and surplus between North America and Europe. These resources were assisting the Allies greatly in the war effort. If these resources were to not reach their destination, it would weaken Western Europe, readying the area for a full-fledged German invasion and the expansion of the Nazi Empire, the results of which could have changed the outcome of World War II entirely. The Germans were well aware of this, so they sent their practically invisible U-boats along with their naval-adapted Enigma machines into the icy depths of the Atlantic Ocean. Even with the convoy system and the acoustic underwater detection system, the battle raged on, and thousands of Allied lives were lost. This occurred with the help of the Enigma, which produced a naval code detailing Allied shipping routes and strategies for interception and attack. This hidden communication scheme was costing lives, and could have very well costed the war, if not for the capture of encryption information from U-110. Since the battle had begun, codebreakers were hard at work at Bletchley Park. However, no significant breakthrough would occur until 1941, when British destroyers obtained a naval Enigma from a sinking German vessel, known as U-110. This information was sent over to Hut 8 at Bletchley Park, currently being headed by Alan Turing. Alan Turing presented his technique, Banburismus, and began deciphering all naval signals. The Nazi Party was unaware that the Enigma code had been completely cracked, and so they continued using their well-relied-on and trusted service. The information that they dispelled helped drastically in the war. As a result of this information finally being revealed, the Allied vessels could be redirected away from wolf packs, make it home safely, and the war could finally be won. There is no better example of communication's importance in history than what has been revealed today with the Enigma Machine. The Enigma Machine was by far one of the most paramount examples of the significance of communication in history. Its construction greatly dictated the Allies' success in World War II and inspired great minds to come together and perform advanced intelligence operations, as well as shape our future for modern computing. Additionally, it is a display of the consequences that can occur when we fail to decipher important intelligence and communication. It shows how communication shapes our society and how helpless we are without it. All of these represent prominent examples of historical communication, its significance, and how heavily we rely on that drug that is known as coherence.